All right, looks like we are live. I'm going to slide over just a little bit as we get positioned here. So good evening, everybody, as you are joining us online. I'm here with Kathy Ferguson with Around the Table, and we were just having a conversation. There we go. I know that we're competing tonight with the Brewer game.
Brewer game, yes.
Yeah, so I'm a little nervous about that we
Yes.
might need to be giving you guys updates or something.
Yeah, please give us that. Mute those TVs now.
Right. We're going to mute the TV so you don't have to watch the Brewer game while you're watching Around the Table.
Right. You can watch. Yeah, you can watch the game, but listen to us.
There you go. No, we were just talking that. Were you thinking about getting a cutout?
Yes.
To be put at Miller Park.
So how much do you think they are?
I thought they'd be a whole lot more expensive. She did some research before we got on, and how much were they?
$50.
$50 for a cutout.
Yep. You upload your photo, and they will put you somewhere in the stadium. And I guess, and you might even be able to choose where you want to go.
Sure.
But it's $50, and it goes to a foundation.
Yeah, the Brewers Community Foundation. Right?
Yeah.
So that's tempting.
It is tempting.
I think we might have to
do that. We might have to do that.
Right, exactly.
How much would a cutout cost if I put it in here for church?
Ooh,
there's a thought.
There's a great idea. Maybe we should start doing cutouts.
We could do cutouts. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That would be fun.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to check that out.
Right. I think we might have to go a little more than $50.
Yeah.
Even though Miller Park's a little better
different.
than here.
But we've got a little more atmosphere. No,
right?
No, we could do that. That would be kind of fun and interesting way to connect with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be different.
Take my cutout.
There you go. Well, welcome tonight with Around the Table. I'm here with Kathy Ferguson, and you've probably seen her around in a variety of different ways. She is a happy, smiling face with us at New Life, and it's a joy for me to be able to converse with her. And again, our desire for Around the Table is to be able to have fun, to have some conversations, a chance to get to know not only each other, but also to have a chance to get to know you. And so we want to encourage you to sign on to the chat. Let us know that you're watching, and if you have questions or you want to be able to answer any questions, we would be more than willing to be able to do that with you. And Jason, good evening.
Jason.
Yeah, I know you're not a sports guy. Sorry, Jason. I just maybe when we have you on, we can talk about some of your hobbies, because we are going to be talking about hobbies tonight here shortly. So I know that you have a different hobby that I'm not that familiar with. And so, I want to encourage you guys to interact with us tonight. And we're going to kick things off with Kathy here. Kathy, why don't you share with us a favorite activity?
A favorite activity.
Favorite activity of yours when you were just a little bit younger, child or a young adult? What was something that you really enjoyed doing?
Well, as a child, I enjoyed climbing. We had a big weeping willow tree, and I loved climbing that. My grandmother lived with us, and it would drive her insane when we would climb it. So of course we would climb it.
Of course.
When Grandma was the closest, yeah. You're gonna hurt yourself.
So she was a kind of nervous Nelly.
Pretty much, yeah. You're gonna break a neck. You're gonna break it. It's like no, and then we'd jump off, and then she'd be all upset. But climbing the willow tree and working with my dad in the garden.
Okay.
Yep. Working with my dad in the garden.
So is that a flower garden or
no? It was vegetable garden. Out in the country, it was vegetable garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of those veggies that you enjoyed?
Corn.
Okay, sure.
Corn and potatoes. Definitely potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah. And carrots. Yeah. That's about all I remember. I'm sure there were others, but that's about all I would eat.
That you would eat?
That I would eat. So that's all I cared about.
So with the potatoes, was it something that they would continue to do the mound systems?
Yeah, continue to do the mound.
Just layer
the more you mound, the more potatoes you get.
Interesting.
And then you have to wait until when you stop mounding, you wait until they flower, until the flower dies off.
Okay.
And then you dig, and you dig.
Really?
And you have lots of potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're the best. But I have some growing now, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I have some growing in. Gary bought bags that you grow in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have 4 bags with some potatoes growing in them, and so I kind of stopped mounding. So I don't know how many potatoes we're gonna have, but I don't need that many. But so you have to wait till the flower dies off, and then you dig them out and you have your potatoes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about as a young adult? What was one of your favorite activities as a young adult?
Well, no. No.
Make sure you put your kids to bed or hit mute on this and start watching the Brewer game. Kathy's
Yeah,
gonna get a little racy.
no. We're not gonna get racy. No. I suppose probably one of my. I loved sports.
Okay.
We didn't have any. I didn't have any brothers.
Okay.
But I just liked sports. I liked football. I liked baseball. I liked soccer. Really wasn't in my generation for playing games.
Sure.
But badminton, we would play badminton a lot as a family. And
sure.
Yeah, kickball. I mean, yeah, I just like, I guess, the atmosphere of it, the competition, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And reading, I still like to read.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what about today? What are some of your favorite hobbies today?
Gardening. I'd like to garden. But I used to garden more vegetables.
Sure.
But I don't do that so much anymore. That takes up too much time.
Sure.
And farmers markets are much better. You spend, like it said, you buy a tomato plant and a couple of tomato plants and a couple of green peppers, and you spend $200 for the summer watering and taking care of it. You can go to the farmer's market and buy them for 25 cents a piece, you know? Right. So but I do a lot of flowers, and I like flowers. Yeah. A lot of flowers and a lot of, I have a lot of greenery in our garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a wonderful garden. You have a wonderful setup back there. Yeah. It's the raised beds. The raised fantastic.
Beds. Yes, I have four. We have nice. Yeah, I have 4 raised beds in the very back of our yard, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 other raised beds as you walk back on the trail to our backyard, and they're big. They're almost as tall, almost as high. But they're probably about 4.5 feet somewhere in there. Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. So I can weed these, and they still get weeds.
Do they?
Oh yeah. They still get weeds, but I like the flowering now. Sure. And reading. Reading is a good hobby.
Sure.
Before COVID, I was an avid exerciser at Generations.
Yeah.
And but now with COVID, I haven't really gone back there yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that. And again, for those of you who are just joining on with us, this is Kathy Ferguson with Around the Table, and just taking the opportunity to get to know her a little bit, and for you to get to know her, and for us to get to know you if you want. And we'd love for you to be able to share and interact back and forth. I know that being able to I know growing up for me, one of the things that my parents loved to do was garden as well. And I know you and I have talked a little bit about what we wanted to be able to do with this property.
Right.
And be able to look at adding some gardens here. And if we do it as a raised beds, or if we do it as in different sections, to be able to provide more opportunity for vegetables, but to be able to bless our community as well. So I love the fact that we can kind of take some things that are hobby-like, because I know Jason Crooked has a garden as well, and I know Michelle and Kirk Anderson love to garden, because I've gotten cucumbers from both of them already this week. And so it's just really neat to be able to kind of see a hobby and turn that into a blessing to others as well.
Yeah. No, I like art. And actually I like the bags that he bought, and they get no weeds.
Nice.
So that's nice, except wherever you put them, there'll be weeds around them.
Sure.
So, I mean, the weeds come. You can't, they're my wildflowers. The weeds come. Yeah. You can't get around it. You just got to pull them.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so another question for you, Kathy, when you kind of think back and you look at the time for you within your faith journey, and is there a specific maybe Bible passage or a Bible story that's kind of one of your favorites, or one that you can just kind of go to just as that point of that kind of that heart connect?
I think the one for me is, I thought about this. The one for me is the story about Jesus in the boat. Yeah, where he wanted to go across, and so he was in the boat, and then the storm came up, and he was sleeping, and he got woke up. He was not happy.
By the disciples, not the storm.
Not the storm.
Isn't that crazy?
It was the disciples. He's what? You don't trust me?
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, especially the last couple of months. Yeah, it's like you got to put your trust in him, and that's one of the stories that I that I've always gone back to, because and sometimes it's you're riding that storm, and you want to be the skipper of the boat.
Right, absolutely.
You want to do that, yeah.
I think I appreciate you being able to share that, knowing that it's being able to have that heart connect with it, and knowing that not only is it something that's walked with you throughout time, but is also something that's very real to you right now, and something that you can lean on.
Yeah.
Right
I mean,
now.
it's a good story, and it's not. I mean, it's a story for I've taught it to my kids, and I kind of teach it to my grandchildren now, that the Lord is always with you, and Jesus is always there, and you've got to weather the storm, and you usually come out of the storm a much better person. And sometimes the storm lasts longer than what you want it to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
So Kathy, I want to just take a little bit of time of allowing people to get to know you a little bit more as well, and really kind of have you share a little bit of your story of how you got connected with New Life, and just kind of share that perspective a little bit.
Well, I think the first at Generations, I saw on the bulletin board there was a post that there were churches that were doing, it was called Toolbox, and they were going around and helping people that need help in their yard, and that was what, 10, 12?
Yeah, at least 13, a good 10 years
ago. Yeah.
Probably 10, 11 years.
Yeah. And so I called, and there was the volunteers were excellent. It was just New Life. It was also the Alliance, and I think there was
Christian Life. Helped a little bit,
yeah, there were a couple of them, and it was great. I mean, I stayed connected with them, and also connected other people with them that they could call and ask for help. And then probably about 8 years ago or so, I was just feeling like I wasn't being fulfilled spiritually, and I needed something more. And it was almost like I was raised Catholic, and I'm glad my parents took us to church. Absolutely. It was great. It was great. It's great, but it wasn't a religion. It wasn't for me as a young adult. And Gary's father was a minister, and Catholic girl fell in love with a Protestant boy. That went But anyway, so then I was more or less expected to go to their church.
Sure.
Which I did. The kids were all raised there, which is fine. But I realized one day, sorry, that I was an adult, and I could make my own decision where I wanted to go. Both Gary's parents were gone, my parents were gone, and it's like, if I'm not happy, I need to be, because I wasn't being spiritually fulfilled. So I visited several churches, and I visited New Life twice, actually. Well, maybe more than that. One of the last times I visited, it's just like I walked in, and it was like, yeah, this is home. This is the first time it was, and the more it went, then it was like, yeah, this is home. This is where I was at Generations.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. This is where I belong, and I just fell into place with it. Lisa, everybody was very welcoming, and it's made me a more spiritual person, and I'm studying the Bible more. I'm learning more from your teaching every Sunday, and it's not where you're just sitting in a church listening to a priest or a minister or a pastor. We've probably all been, talking, and you're just nodding your head, and but it's So that's, and I'm very thankful to the Lord for showing me, for bringing me whispering. I heard that whisper going,
There you go.
And he still is whispering, but it's been good. Although now with the COVID, it's a little bit, you feel a little bit disconnected, because not only because of age, because people in my age bracket, you have to be very careful, and I have an underlying immune system problem, so I have to be very careful there. So it is kind of feeling of disconnect, even with the Sunday, the service, you know.
Online, yeah.
So, but yet, you know, I guess that's everything in life now. So it's that's probably one of the things that's difficult right now, and you probably hear that from a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. It's trying to have that conversation around. Yeah, we can provide all these different connect points, or these not even connect points, because it feels as like for me it's like so one-sided, because I'm connecting with a screen, or you're connecting with a screen because you're watching it on the other side. And the jokes that people say, hey, I'll see you on Sunday. I say, yeah, you'll see me, but I won't see you. Right. And so for us being able to have the conversation around how do we engage? How do we engage so that there can be this back and forth conversation? And respecting the fact that people may not be comfortable to come back here on a Sunday morning, yet knowing that people do feel disconnected.
Right.
And so I definitely think that that's something that we want to be conscientious of, and continue to ask the question of how do we do this differently?
Right.
Because we don't know how long. We don't know if we're going to regress anymore.
Yeah, well, we don't.
If things get worse, then what does that mean? And so if we have to go back to completely online. So those are things that we have to pay attention to. And I appreciate the fact of you just sharing about Toolbox, and Jason made the reference to when they showed up through movie night back in 2017. And it's just amazing to be able to hear the different community connects that we try and provide, that it does touch a need, or it is an entryway. Maybe that's a better way, an entryway to be able to connect with something bigger that God's doing. And you've been a champion of Toolbox, not only in being able to have the services being able to provide it at your home, but also wanting to get others connected with Toolbox.
Absolutely.
I mean, over in your neighborhood, we have a couple that we serve in that area, which is wonderful.
I think there's like 3 neighbors that they serve.
Yeah. And I really hope to be able to get that back up and going again, and just use that as that opportunity. So I appreciate you sharing it. But one of the things that you mentioned, Kathy, within the conversation is that when you finally kind of got to the point of, hey, this is where I belong. This is home. And you had made reference to that. Why or how have you seen, or how have you seen this continue to just be your home, or your place to belong? What's that connection?
Well, I think the connection there is that your teachings on Sunday are excellent. You know, and the people are people in this church have been overwhelmingly supportive to me, and I see it to every, you know, even if I can sit in when you could be in church, you sit in church. And you could see that they were supportive all over. Everybody was supportive to each other. Even if you didn't know the person, someone was always there for you. Yeah. And it just feels right. It just feels comfortable. It feels safe. It feels, I just see the joy in people's faces.
Cool.
And that they are interacting with the music.
Sure.
The music is great. I've been relying on a lot of the music lately.
Absolutely.
So the hymns, the music are great. Yeah. Sure. So, and it's just, I would feel lost if I didn't watch Sunday mornings. In fact, lately my granddaughter's been kind of with me on Sunday mornings, and she's 13, the oldest. She's 13, and well, everybody knows what 13-year-olds are like.
Absolutely.
They're, they know everything. Yeah. Right. But anyway, she would be laying on the couch with her electronic device, and I would catch her looking over at the TV and listening to Aaron. And the first weekend she was there was when he was first talking about loneliness, and she paid, because we talked about that later on that night. Sure. And so she's paying attention. And this last Sunday she was over too, and she was like looking at her device, but I knew she was listening, and I would see her every now cast her eyes up to the TV screen. But so that's good. I mean, that I probably would not have been able to convince her to come with me to church, right? Because she just but she wants to come and stay this Saturday night too. Cool. So But
I think the way that you're able to engage with her on it, and then just create that space and that curiosity. You just never know the different seeds that are planted that can be that type of blessing. We obviously know the impact, and you've made some references to it already in relationship to the impact of what this virus has done, and the disconnectedness that it's felt, and obviously the not being able to participate in different activities with generations and in your kind of your network. But you've also had a battle through a significant loss over this season, and it was the passing of your husband. Has it been 6 weeks now?
Yeah, Gary passed away June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we're and I just walking through something like that at any time is difficult. But how have you seen God at work in the midst of that pain and that heartache and that increased storm?
Yeah, it's a storm. Yeah. Well, he was in hospice. He had a stroke, and he had a first stroke in 2007, at which debilitated his left side, and he's had several little ones since then. But this one was affected his right side and his speech. So the doctors said he was not going to recover. He couldn't talk well. He couldn't swallow. So he was in hospice. And, how God, first of all, that Sharon Richardson's is here in our community is a blessing in itself. But to see your children, your adult children, I hope I don't get sentimental here.
Please.
I mean, he worked through them, and to see your adult children there and swabbing his lips with the sponge because he couldn't swallow, and to be taken care. And I just sat back and let the kids do that because they needed to do that for their dad. And to watch that for 4 days was, but
I don't mean to interrupt,
No.
but I think what's beautiful about that, Kathy, is I agree. Not only was it a blessing for your children to be able to have that time with their dad, but knowing that was one of the first things that you went to of how it was a blessing to you.
Yeah.
And to be able to see the encouragement for you to have your children tend to your husband, their father, in that way, that has a special place.
It does have a special place
in your heart. So I think it
does have a special place. And we had 4 children, and our oldest lives out in California. So she and her husband didn't come home because of the COVID, but they were virtual. So through the whole process, Stephanie was there all the time, either on the computer like we are, or on the phone. And Paul's wife, Kenzie, the same way. And we did a memorial for Garrett. Well, yeah, so when he passed, I don't want to.
It's okay.
When he passed, I mean, every day they talked to him. Every day, we were there all the time. And when he passed, all of us were there, whether Aaron and Paul and myself were there, and the other children and spouses were there virtually. And we all felt that loss at the same time. So, I mean, God was there. I mean, he worked that. He could have taken Gary at any time, but he did it when we were, and it was, it's hard to describe, but it's, of course it's very emotional, but to be able to have your children there with you when that happens, and for you as a family to experience that is a blessing.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he worked that way. And like I said, Sharon Richardson itself is a blessing for our community.
And it's wonderful that you're able to have a team of people, and I know that even the opportunity for me to come in that one time with your family was just such a blessing. And just to be able to share in that, to meet Paul and Aaron and Cassie was just wonderful. And then when we did do the memorial service, I want you to share a little bit about that, because when Bill McCaskill was a pastor here, him and I would goof around in making comments, because he would always say, Aaron, you can have the weddings, and he would do the funerals. Okay. And I'm like, I'm all for it. Like, I'd much rather do a wedding than do a funeral. Right. And I understood his reasoning before, because he saw like there's just a freshness desire of people wanting to understand hope. And so he was the forever evangelist in that way. For me, it was just like, there's so much pain and sorrow. Like, I want the weddings, I want the celebration, I want the parties. Right? But the reason why I share that is that I don't have a ton of funerals or memorials under my belt, but I think by far this was one of the most special.
Oh, well, thank you.
And the most intimate.
Yeah, it was intimate.
And so I just want. I mean, it was emotional for me, even in a positive way. But I want you to share just a little bit, because it's not my story, it's your story. So it's just I know how much it meant to me.
Well,
so
that's good to know.
I'm not even part of the family.
Yeah,
so.
Sure you are. Yeah. No, our son was the one, Paul. He was the one that kind of started coordinating it, because we knew we couldn't have the traditional funeral, but we wanted something. I wanted something right away, or within a couple weeks to months. I wanted something. So he started looking around at virtual funerals or memorials. And he came across one that showed where the family made videos, and then they put the videos together and showed it as a memorial. And then they also did a live feed one. Well, we decided live feed one wouldn't be a good thing, because you get off track easily. So we asked Aaron if he would do the memorials at the spiritual side, and Aaron agreed. And then we asked family members to send to Paul and our oldest daughter, Stephanie, the videos. And they together, those two and their spouses, put it together, this memorial service. And I mean, it was awesome. And Aaron came over to our backyard, and we had Paul and his wife Kenzie and their 3 children, and our daughter Erin couldn't come because her husband's grandmother passed away about 4 days after Gary did, and that her funeral was that Friday. And then our daughter Cassie came down with a migraine, which is understandable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was just us. And Aaron sat, and he did an awesome job.
Well, that's not the point.
I know. But anyway, it was Paul and Kenzie, myself, and their 3 children in our backyard in front of the garden.
Yep.
And
around
the campfire.
Yeah, we have
the bonfire. We had a bonfire going.
Yeah.
And neighbors of ours, they had someone make a bench that had in memory of Gary P. Ferguson. So that was there. Yeah. And Paul had him situated so he was at like dead center of the grapevine wreath, and and I mean it was like a production. They did well.
It was something that was very simple, and I think that's what was so neat about it. But then when we took the time to be able to have some sharing in the music,
yes,
that's for me was really where it shifted. So I think there was an anticipation of emotion, and so in the sharing and the reflecting, and then also we got to the music, and I can only imagine.
Yeah, I know, that's my favorite.
And then all of a sudden the floodworks came, and motion came, which was just beautiful, and the grandchildren are coming by you, and Paul's tending to his children and whatnot, and it was just a very moving time, very personal time.
It was very personal.
Considering the circumstances that we're in. And the reason why I share it that way is because I think that was another way to be able to see God's hand at work of just tending to, it's not what maybe people expected or wanted, but it was God was able to tend to your family, tend to you,
and the kids
in that way, and it was just something that was.
It was very personal. It was it was very personal. It was extremely personal, and it's funny because Gary always said, "I just want something in the back. Just have a broad fry and have something in the backyard for me." And yeah, we had the fire, and the kids sang a song that Gary always sang with them, Mr. Marshmallow.
Mr. Marshmallow.
Yeah, and and then the next week Saturday we had at home at our house, and it was on YouTube. We had the memorial service, the whole service that Paul and Stephanie put together. And if anybody wants to see it, contact Aaron or the church office, and you can look. It's on YouTube. People, I mean, it's very personal. It's very personal. I spoke, and then each of the kids spoke from the heart. I mean, it was from the heart. And his brother spoke, and my sister, one of my sisters, and her husband spoke. The ones that we did a lot together with, we traveled with, and then friends, and it was very personal. I mean, it's very personal and very, you have the Kleenexes ready.
Right.
Yeah. And then I had the color guard came out because we live right next to a park. So neighbors came over at that point. And then the color guard came over and did he was in the service in the Navy and did the
21 gun salute.
Yeah.
Right? And then
and then more neighbors came out.
I bet.
And so that was very emotional. Absolutely. Yeah. So it was very well done. Our son and daughter did an excellent job, and it was.
That's neat.
I still get compliments on it.
Neat.
The neighbors will, I still get compliments on it. It's viewed quite a bit of time. Quite a bit,
That's wonderful.
In fact, I met yesterday. I was out and I met two of Paul's friends from classmates from high school, and they had watched it and they said that was very emotional for them too.
Really neat.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, and I know that there have been folks that you've been able to come alongside of and encourage in their own walk. And part of the reason why I wanted you to share it, one, is because it's very real.
It's very real.
But then two, also allows us to be able to share more of what's going on in our lives, because we don't know the impact of our sharing of things, what it could mean in someone else's life. And so knowing that you've seen God at work as you've gone through this type of storm, can be an encouragement and a blessing to others. And so I just appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, absolutely.
Going there.
And no, I mean, he's shown since Gary's been gone. I mean, it's lonely, and this what we're going through now at church, it has kind of hit home. But every day I see something. God sends me something, and that I'm grateful for. And it's not easy, but it's part of life.
Absolutely. Chris, I appreciate you sharing. I kind of threw out the question of how have you seen God at work in your life personally, and I appreciate you sharing. It's amazing to be able to know when you just say, hey, there's someone else in the room. I mean, the whole Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, like there's a fourth being in there, or whatever the case may be. And I think it's as far-fetched as we think those stories may be within Scripture, I think they're very real in the sense of, there's times where we just have an other presence.
Absolutely.
And how, if it's the Holy Spirit, or if it's the presence of his angels, or whatever the case may be, his ways of walking with us and being personal and intimate, and not just this far off deity that is disconnected, or just doesn't care about our lives or what we're going through. And so I just appreciate that. What would you want to be able to share with others to encourage them in their own personal walk?
Well, lately, actually, since Gary's passing, I talked to Aaron about this. I've had kind of a difficult time picking up the Bible and finding the right words, the right passages. But listening to spiritual music has helped. It's really helped. Every morning I ask Alexa to play the top Christian music.
There you go.
Yeah, and it works. I've found grace through spiritual music. And sometimes if you just look up the lyrics then and read the lyrics, they're very powerful. Songs are very powerful.
No, I appreciate that. In following God's grace in spiritual music, I think that's that's neat. I like the way that you shared that, and to be encouraged by that, knowing, and I think it's interesting too. I mean, just a little bit of a backstory with Gary, is Gary was very musical.
He was very musical.
And he had a desire to do a record.
Yeah. Well, and he had done one in his younger years.
In his younger years, he did do one. Okay.
Yep.
And being a part of a band and loved to record and stuff. And so I do find that what a neat blessing of God using music to increase that blessing and that touch to you.
Yeah. No, I find that very comforting because I can, and I think too, part of my blockage with sitting down and reading passages or reading devotions is when I sit and I read, my mind wanders. Yeah, and then I start thinking of things, and then so if I'm listening to the music, I'm just listening to the songs and to the words, and I can be doing things.
No, that's good, and I appreciate you sharing that. You made reference earlier just to how real the loneliness can be at times, and obviously we're working through part of that series now with loneliness. But I want to encourage you, Kathy, and hopefully it's an encouragement to others. I think, and we're going to be sharing more about this on Sunday, but one of the things that I so appreciate about you, and one of the things that I think is, I think, lack for a better term, a remedy to loneliness, is the fact that you are willing to reach out.
Oh, absolutely.
And so even though that there are no doubt that there are moments of feeling lonely, and those moments may not have a preset time of how long they are or when they come. But that you reach out, and sometimes it's for yourself, and sometimes you're reaching out for others, and you show that care by saying, "Hey, I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to make this note, or I want to check in on this." Right. And and I think that's just. I just want to encourage you and just kind of celebrate and just encourage others that if you're in a similar place, that reach out is the bravest thing that you can do. Yeah. In the midst of loneliness.
And I know it's the hardest thing. I know it's very hard to reach out, but I'm here to, if anybody needs a phone call or visit with me, whatever, I'm here. Just call Lisa and she'll get us connected. But I'm here and I'm willing to. I'm a good listener. And I try not to interrupt, but
she also loves to share too, and that's wonderful.
Yes, I do like to share. Yeah. But no. So I'm here for you. Cool. I'm here for you. It's cool. Yeah.
So I'm gonna flip it just a little bit. I don't know if you have anything, but were there any questions that you wanted to ask me?
Let's see. I would like to ask you, how long does it take you to prepare for a Sunday?
Okay. Yeah, how long does it take me to prepare for a Sunday? That's a great question. I would say that probably from start to finish. So like initial thought of, hey, where are we going to go? To finishing with like the PowerPoint and then the faith challenges and everything. That whole, depending on the week, is a good 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah.
I think from start to finish. And so I know that sometimes some weeks are harder, and it's not necessarily based on the topic. A lot of it is based upon how much have I allowed it to ruminate inside my mind and my heart. Because there's times where I'll sit down and I'll have a thought of where I want to go with it, and it's just like flowing. I'm like, I can't stop. I can't stop writing. And so typically what I do is that I'll try and obviously I'll pray through it. I'll read through different things. I'll take notes, and then it says, okay, now I need to organize my notes. Okay, and then I'll start writing. So then I handwrite it, and then I transfer my handwriting to typing it up and having a manuscript. And that's just the way that I work with it. But I think going through all those different levels for me allows it to continue to sink in deeper. And so I appreciate that way. Sometimes I'll sit down, I'm like, I got nothing. I'm like, God, come on.
What are we going to do?
And the worst time for me
That's
is
when you call Sam and say,
right,
you got
you're
it.
on. Yeah, I haven't done that to him yet. But I think if I get to Thursday night and I don't have something, Friday is very stressful.
Yeah, I bet.
Over the last 2 years, I used to always want to have everything done, bow tied and everything by Friday.
Right.
The last 2 years, that has not been the case. And there's been times where I'll finish things on Saturday. I've actually, in the last 3 months, I've finished 2 messages Sunday morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
7 a.m. And some of that is just time. Some of that is flow. Some of that is, okay, no, I'm going to put this off to the side to tend to other things. And so all that to be said, I am so incredibly thankful for God's grace in it. And that trying to stay as attuned as I possibly can. And there's times there's no doubt I'm distracted. That's probably the reason why, like, God, I got nothing because I'm not tuned in.
Bring it to me, yeah.
But then there's other times where it's just like, just overwhelmed by just like, oh man, this flow. And then you have to share it.
Yeah, you have to share. So you practice in the mirror?
I do not in the mirror anymore, but I will review it. My goal typically is to read it 2 or 3 times, just to have.
You have to be time wise too.
I wish that was the case for me. Like if we
okay.
ever got to the point where I had a clock on the back that counted down, I don't know how I'd do that. So if anyone has these really nasty ideas of putting a clock back there to start going like this, I know that some of you are already doing that, but that's a different conversation.
When you hear the alarms go off on your cell phones, yeah.
But no, I mean, I think part of it could be time, but it's also just allowing to sink in. And there's lots of times where I'll be up there and God will give me something not completely else, but we'll add something else, or where I'll sense the spirit of, hey, let's go in this direction with it. And so I'm just very thankful for that. And then the flip side of it is people receiving it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of messages that I've had that I've gotten down, and people will say, hey, Aaron, thank you so much for saying whatever it was. And I'm like, I never said that. I'm like,
but that's what they heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like, that wasn't in my notes. I don't even remember sharing it that way. But that's what they heard, and that's what the Holy Spirit needed to get their attention in that way. And so those are the times where it's like, as much as I want to think I'm in control,
take credit.
It's like, nope. So yeah.
But and do you save your notes, your messages? Do you save them?
Yes.
Are you saving them?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I have all my manuscripts. I would say, so I've been on staff here for 14 years. The first 11 years, I never repeated a message. Outside of, let me rephrase that. Every January when we do the new year, that would be a similar message.
Okay.
But I never repeated a message.
Okay.
The last 3 years, I went back and told a few messages to be able to redo. Part of it was, hey, God, one, you're kind of speaking in this language again. 2, there can be this influx of newer folks. Like, there's value in this. Like, why only have it just be done once or whatnot? And so, so I'll look back at some of my old notes or different things at times. I had one question that someone asked me actually on a work day this summer. Are my messages original, or do I take them from other churches? Because there are resources out there that you can get a manuscript from North Point, Andy Stanley, or Life Church with Craig Rochelle, and you just change the goal would be to change the personal stories and stuff. But I shared with them. I said, no, I may get an idea from a message. I'm like, ooh, I really like that. Or I'll use quotes.
Sure. Well,
from
other
that's
other
messages. Exactly. Yeah. But as far as, hey, I'm going to take exactly what this guy did, and now I'm going to
just
call
change
it
a few
my own.
words. Yeah, you don't do that.
No, everything. The majority of what I do is quote original in that context.
So how do you add when you tell personal stories?
Yeah.
How do you add your family? Do you mention to them?
Yeah.
Or do you ask them permission, or do you just wing it?
So I found out that early on when I was teaching, I asked permission. Recently, like the last handful of years, I guess I haven't been asking permission. So I've made it a point over the last, probably the last 6 months of, hey, are you okay if I share this or not? But yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten, there's only one time where I know Caleb came in and we had just finished church and someone must have went out and said, that you did such and such. And he comes in like, why did you tell them that? Like, fair enough, buddy. You're right. I probably either should have asked or not shared it.
Yeah. I'm sure you would get, because that's easy to do when you're up there and it's an impulse.
That's just it. Yeah. And I want to be able to make it personal. I try to be able to reveal part of my heart, reveal what's going on within our lives and stuff. And so it's not that it's, hey, I want it to be about me. But it's just like, I want you to, if I'm going to teach it, I don't want you to think, hey, I think it's a good idea for you to live it, Kathy. I want to say, hey, these are either where I've had a chance to live it or this is where I struggle with, and just try and make it personal in that nature. So
okay, one more question if we have time. How can I word this? Why do you use sports a lot in your Yeah,
no, that's a good question. And that's a fair question. One that I think you enjoy talking about things that you're familiar with. You enjoy talking about things that you can see the parallels with. And so when I look at sports, I see a lot of faith connections within that. But I definitely realize that not everyone connects in that way. And so I think there's definitely a growing piece for me of being able to find different illustrations or images within it than just having it be sports. Because even like my friend Jason, who says Brewers, who are the Brewers?
Jason.
In jest.
Yes.
She's like, it doesn't mean that you still speak that same language.
Right.
And stuff. So
right. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you asking.
Well, no, I mean, I think most people can connect with it, but not everybody can. And
correct.
So it's like, why, if you didn't do sports, what do you think you would do?
That's a good question. I think just to piggyback that for a second, though, I also think it's culture. When you look at our culture, especially here, like if we were in South Dakota, I'm like, Iowa, or whatever. We're getting myself in trouble here.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're Iowa. You're kind of college there,
Right? But so you look at it. So here too, I mean, so you'll have references to farming. And I try and bring in some of those, even though I don't know much about it. And so trying to, what other things would I use? Not politics.
No, you can't go there. No, can't go there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, farming is a good one.
Yeah, farming is a good one. The fishing aspect, partly because it was connected with the disciples, and that was familiar. Right. In that culture. I don't have a lot of hunting stories. Because I'm not a hunter. The few that I tell are really embarrassing. So, because I'm not a very good hunter and stuff. And so it's, it's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, what, yeah.
I'm not artsy.
No, I'm sure you're not. You don't cook? You don't cook?
I do cook.
Oh, you do cook?
Yeah. So I do cook.
Okay,
so it could be some cooking. I really enjoy cooking.
Oh, what do you like to cook?
Trying new recipes. I really enjoy the grill. Very much similar to Gary. I've been enjoying Piggly Wiggly's been having those whole chickens for 69 cents a pound. And so I'm just like, I'm getting these chickens for like $1.30.
Nice.
And so I've been putting those on the grill. They've been really good. But I also like finding new recipes. Found really good, actually a rotisserie chicken salad recipe. Jada found a really good Greek salad with tzatziki, homemade tzatziki sauce and gyro meat and cucumbers and red onions. And so I like enjoying those. And I love actually probably breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
I love making skillets.
Okay.
And so hash browns or sweet potato hash browns and eggs and sausage and Brussels sprouts, spinach, bacon.
So what time is breakfast?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you ever have breakfast at night?
We have at times, yeah.
That's good.
I've gotten away from that a little bit. Yeah, but Mexican, love making guacamole. Homemade guacamole. Made that the other day. It was fantastic.
So how could you put that into your?
I think I make everybody hungry.
You are.
I mean, look, everyone started, like, I haven't had supper yet, so I'm ready to go home and eat.
Yeah. No, but that would be interesting. You use it as cooking, or do you bake?
I do bake.
Oh, you do bake?
I started out just a little bit. There's certain things I enjoy baking.
Okay.
I remember we did one time, this was back in Generations, where we had bread baking while the service was going on. Because it tied into some of the, I think we did a psalm based on that. So then you smelt it and then you brought it out. That would
be good. And then that would be good. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
We've joked around like retirement of having a diner, just a breakfast, lunch kind of thing. Because I love making grilled sandwiches as well, and so just do kind of a breakfast, lunch type of thing, and then get done by 2 and go golf for the rest of the day. And
that's not restaurant business. Restaurant business is 24/7.
No, that's why I'll have Caleb take care.
Oh, you have Caleb take care of it? Does he know that?
Yeah. We talked about my brother-in-law, Ed, and Caleb and I going into the restaurant.
Well, Carol's Cafe is.
I know. I saw that. I'm like, I don't know if I can pull that off too. Sam would yell at me for having.
He would be. Yeah, that would not be good. You'd have to work more than just Sunday.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No.
So, well, hey, I really appreciate the questions and the engagement there, Kathy.
I do too.
Folks, I want to give you an opportunity. Thank you for sharing within that different times. And if you have any prayer requests, we want to kind of take the moment to end our time in prayer. And so if there's anything that you have stirring within your mind, within your heart, I want to encourage you to share that in prayer. And we'll definitely go forward with that and just encourage one another in that way. Just appreciate taking the time.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. I watch this on Thursdays.
You do. I know.
I do watch it on Thursday. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do watch it on Thursdays.
Now you'll be able to share this with your family. Did you tell your family you were doing this?
Are you kidding?
Why not?
No.
Okay.
I'll show it. If they want to see it, I'll tell them about it.
All right. Well, I'll have to find Paul's email.
Yeah. You will. No. Yeah. And if anybody's interested in watching Gary's memorial, get in touch with Lisa here at the office, and I'll make sure that you are able to see it, because I think everybody would. It's because of this COVID thing. I mean, it's what we did, and it, it was great. I feel very satisfied with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy, thank you. Why don't I take a moment to pray for us, and then we'll wrap it up. Heavenly Father, thank you so much just for all the different ways that you work. Lord, I thank you for how you've brought Kathy here to New Life and so many others in different ways, using the different entry points to get connected with not only a church, but Lord, get connected with a church where there's a sense of belonging, a sense of home. And so, Lord, I thank you for Kathy. I thank you for the ways that you've walked with her throughout her life. But Lord, even recently, and just in the ways that you have just been present in the midst of her storm. And so I pray you continue to encourage her and her family. And Lord, I just continue to lift up those that are going to watch this, Lord, whatever they're walking through right now. I pray that you would be very real, very personal to them. Lord, I ask that if there are folks that are watching us that connect with what Kathy is saying, or even connect with what it means to be lonely, Lord, I pray that they would have the courage to reach out. Lord, I pray that they'd have the courage to send an email or make a phone call. Reach out to Kathy, reach out to the church office, reach out to someone in their friend circle. Lord, knowing that you use people to connect with your love and your grace. And so I pray that would be very true in people's lives. Lord, we lift up all that's before us right now. We lift up our president, and we lift up our county leaders, our state leaders, our city leaders. We lift up our school boards in the region. Lord, we lift up our medical professionals. And Lord, I ask for wisdom. I ask for care. Lord, I ask that you would just continue to, that we would keep our eyes fixed on you in the midst of all of this. And so we give this to you today. We thank you. We love you in your son's name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Well, folks, we really thank you for joining us tonight with Around the Table, and look forward to coming back next Thursday, where Sam will be hosting with someone to be determined.
Ooh, it's a secret.
Determined. It is a secret because he hasn't told me yet who it's going to be. So we look forward to connecting with you. Please reach out if you guys need anything. But we again thank you. Grace and peace.
There.
Awesome.